Hi, Isaac. This is Michael from BetterTOEFLScores.com, and I'm listening to integrated speaking practice test that you sent me yesterday, right? And let's get to the email first. You say, thanks for the last audio. As you know, this is a problem here. You need to end this sentence right there, right? You don't want a comma splice. As you know, I will present the test in a few days. Although I now feel more confident about my structures, I think my pronunciation could cost me points. Do you have any suggestions for these? And also, can you evaluate this practice? Thank you for your support. In the next few weeks, I will tell you. I'm going to change this to if or whether or not I have been accepted. Change this to into the University of Edinburgh. Looks like you're going to university in Scotland, am I right? Okay, let's take a look at it. So to improve the pronunciation is not an easy feat, right? But as I go through your practice test, I would typically identify specific areas with your delivery that you may want to study. I have accent reduction lessons pretty much for every area of pronunciation. So that would be the first thing you do, is to find out if there's anything that's causing problems with your pronunciation and then study those accent reduction lessons. Now, you know and I know, just because you study an accent reduction lesson doesn't mean that you have solved that problem. So in addition to practicing the accent reduction videos that specifically address the weak points in your pronunciation, you need to be making an all-out effort on increasing your exposure to English, where you're listening to English maybe 1 to 2 hours, 3 hours every day if you can. You might be listening to documentary, history, news, maybe science type shows. Really get a lot of listening exposure right now. There's a lot of research out there that says that does help with your speaking and your pronunciation of English. In addition, find those valuable opportunities in which you can communicate with native speakers. So the more you talk with native speakers, the more feedback you get. They'll say, "What was that? What'd you say?" And then you'll modify your speech and you'll repeat that. And it's that kind of interaction that really helps you to really adjust your speaking and pronunciation so it's more understandable to native speakers. So if you can, really try to talk to native speakers even 2, 3, 4 hours a day if you can, and that's also important. So as you improve your exposure, as you talk with native speakers more, as you study the accent reduction lessons that I recommend based on the speaking practice sets that you're sending me, you will definitely improve your pronunciation. Okay, so those are my comments on that. Okay, let's go ahead and listen to your speaking
The
practice
article
test.
introduces the topic of impression management, which is the way in which we manipulate the impression that others have about us.
Now, in the way in which we and us, I wouldn't use those personal pronouns there, we and us. That's too personal for this type of speaking task. So the way in which people or students, blah blah blah. So usually the third person point of view is a better point of view to use during the integrated speaking task.
To illustrate this topic, the professor in the lecture gives two examples. First, he explains that when students give a presentation, they usually wear a formal outfit in order to show that they took seriously the presentation or they are formal.
So in this case, you're having what I call pacing issues. You're speaking quickly, right? But you're not getting exactly the thought groups right. So you have to group those words into thought groups of 4 to 5 stress words. You follow those by pauses, and that helps you to speak more naturally. You can learn more about that by going to pronunciation lessons 41 through 44.
Second, he explains that um,
You see that? You only do that. It's second, he explains that blah blah blah.
we can also manipulate the situation in
And who is we?
which we interact with others to give them a specific impression. For instance,
No, it's specific, but it's specific. So in this case, you're having some problems with your vowel sounds. You're not sure whether the words that you speak, do you need a longer or a shorter vowel sound there? So your vowel quality is also affecting your intelligibility when you speak. What does that mean in my course? That means that you should be studying the vowel sounds and make sure you understand the difference between the short and the longer vowel sounds of American English. Remember, a lot of people think, well, Michael, you got 5 vowels in your language. But that's not true. I think there's about 14 different vowel sounds in the English language, even though the spelling, there's not 14 different spellings with vowels. There's A, I, E, O, U, that, but there's actually 14 different sounds, and you're not comfortable pronouncing all those sounds clearly.
He explains that when he gave a ride to the principal of the university, he cleaned up
Notice there the principal, but it's more principal.
his car, and also he put a specific kind of music in the radio, which was classical music, in order to show him that he's a sophisticated and a responsible person.
Okay. All right, let me listen to the whole thing once again. I had to break it up so many times to make comments. I need to listen to it to get the overall effect of your response. Let me listen to the whole thing without making any comments, and I'll give you a score.
The article introduces the topic of impression management, which is the way in which we manipulate the impression that others have about us. To illustrate this topic, the professor in the lecture gives two examples. First, he explains that when students give a presentation, they usually wear a formal outfit in order to show that they took seriously the presentation or they are formal. Second, he explains that um, we can also manipulate the situation in which we interact with others to give them a specific impression. For instance, he explains that when he gave a ride to the principal of the university, he cleaned up his car, and also he put a specific kind of music in the radio, which was classical music, in order to show him that he's a sophisticated and a responsible person.
Okay, so I think if we take a look at the rubrics here, give me a second. So, integrated speaking, yeah, it's tough. I mean, you have a pretty good organization of your ideas, right? So, you seem to understand how to connect things together pretty well. But with the language use, just be careful of your pronouns. Keep your pronouns focused on the third person point of view, not the first person plural we. So, that's a language use comment. Delivery, I think I gave you a whole bunch of comments on that already. Your topic development is pretty good. I'm going to put you again around 23 to 24 points on this practice test. So the answer is yes. Your pronunciation, until you get it more natural sounding, until you get better control of those vowel sounds, and also what I call thought groups and blending, it will count against your score, and therefore you will score lower because of those problems. So this is something that you really want to work on right now.